people first. I have the Master Gardeners in studio right now. That includes Gwen Podesky and Linda Smith. Great to have you both here on the program.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, you know what? In November, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, man, what can I ask them? What kind of things are going on for gardening in November? And then you guys told me that the seed catalogs right now are something you guys are really paying attention to. Why are you so excited about the seed catalogs?
Well, because when you start getting them this time of the year and on through January, there are a lot of newer things or things that are very popular that may not be available if you don't get your orders placed.
Mm.
I mean, it's amazing at how many things are sold out if you try to wait until February or March to order from those catalogs. So this is a very good time and even if you've not gotten them in yet, start paying attention to really what you want. If you want something new, because this is the time to get those reservations in with newer stuff.
What are some of the high demand stuff that you see usually every year?
Oh, tomatoes for sure. You know, and a lot of people like to start those in January, February.
Yeah, they do. They start them from seed,
from
and
seed.
I think sometimes peppers or something that people don't. And then some of the decorative plants too, for want of a better word. Some of those things. If you've got, like, I know I've been trying to chase down another grave ties beauty clematis for the last 2 or 3 years, and there are certain things like that are just going to be sold out. I mean, everybody else is chasing them too. Usually they're watching the same shows and going to the same conferences I am, and they're chasing the same plants. So,
Okay.
And I did hear too that there may be a shortage of seed. Whether that's true or not, I do not know, but I'm not, I have to order lots of pumpkin seeds, for instance, and I'm not going to wait until the last minute this year just in case. And I did call the companies because they told us that they might be in short supply. So get my name in early.
well, and speaking of your other big crop, the asparagus, do you plant asparagus in the fall?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. When do you plant asparagus then?
In the spring.
Okay.
In the spring. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to pick it for a couple of years, so, but that's another thing. If you're ordering from some of those companies where you're going to get bare root supplies and those kinds of things, you need to get your name in now, because people already, like for rhubarb and asparagus and some of your brambles, if you don't get those ordered now, a lot of people find out when they order them in the spring, there's none there. And then they call in the fall. Well, then that means other people aren't going to get theirs next spring. So yeah, getting on the list for those is critical.
I didn't realize asparagus took so long to come to fruition once you planted. Once you have that first initial harvest, though, are you able to do it every year, or?
Well, it's kind
for
of
100 years, maybe.
But it takes a couple of years to get it going.
Yes, and it depends on whether you're lucky enough to buy 2-year crowns or 3-year crowns. If you buy 3-year crowns and you plant them next spring, the following spring you can pick for 1 week, the next week 2 weeks, and the following year all season.
I see.
And so and then their lifespan is about 25 to 30 years.
Right. And not too unlike, say, a fruit bush like blueberries. It takes a little while for that blueberry bush to come to fruition and start actually producing.
Right, exactly.
Same kind of idea.
So and that's true. I mean, apple trees, it doesn't matter. Even with apples, you're not supposed to. In fact, you're supposed to pick them off green when you first plant an apple tree. The first few years, in order to let it put its energy back into growing, they will tell you to remove most of the fruit right after it's set or apparent to you. So there's a lot of things like that to take best care of a long-lived plant. That's the best thing to do.
Right. Yeah. Well, right now I understand that, there's not a ton to do in the actual garden. I know there's stuff that for you guys are always out in the garden, but for a lot of people right now, it's good to kind of check up on their equipment. So what kind of equipment tips do you have for folks?
First of all, I would think to make sure, go through everything you've got, make sure that it's all clean and that you can clean it up. It's not super rocket science, but clean it with a plastic scrub brush and good water, and then sharpen it. You can use a hand file to sharpen the tools. The edges of a spade, you're going to cut a cleaner row and put less stress on your back if your blades and everything are sharp. I would also kind of encourage you to inspect your handles and see, have they become loose? Sometimes in the summer it's not so apparent because it's more humid and the wood swells, and so you don't notice it. But then when fall comes, and that wood is kind of contracted back a little bit, you may start to find out that your handles are loose on a spade, or there may be some other problems or something. So it's always good to do that, and be sure that when you put them away, with in just good order, so you can find what you need. I think the other thing to make sure you do, inspect your snow shovels, because those kinds of things too are going, you're going to be getting those out. So I think this is just a good time of the year. If you've got lawn mowers or other things than that, you may want to winterize your lawn mowers. Make sure that you're not, you don't want them to sit all winter. Have a tank of gas in them, because that will varnish up. As my brother says, he's a mechanic. And so anyway, those kinds of things, those big motorized tools too, you need to pay attention to and make sure that they're okay.
And on your tools too, it's a good idea, I think, to also coat them with a good oil. And that way you can make sure they're in good working condition and they're ready to go next spring, but that will keep rust from forming and keep them in good condition through the winter.
Do you have any recommendations for oil?
Usually a machine oil, just, out of those one little,
like 3-in-1,
and
like
if nothing else, WD-40 is also something good. But, in my family, if I leave something like a spade or a shovel with dirt on it, my name's Mud. No pun intended, but it's just terrible to, put them away when they've got clumps of dirt on them. So just make sure everything's cleaned up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot about the oil. So that's a good thing Linda's here. I'm sort of functioning on half my cylinders today.
Well, it's Monday morning. I understand that.
Yeah. And so the other thing too is, speaking of mowing and things, you might still need to be mulching and doing some things with leaves, because leaves are still falling. There are probably some oaks and maples that might not have lost the canopy yet. So that's still something that you're going to have to pay attention to. And I would encourage you to mulch those leaves up, and then use that, put it on your vegetable garden for amendments, or put that on your perennial beds to kind of insulate the plants. I mean, I think it was Mrs. Mary Del Valle. That's practically all they use for mulch. That they mulch up the leaves and use it. So it's there's no reason to go out and buy those bags.
No, not this time of year, for sure.
So anyway, but that's another thing you might be doing in the vegetable garden, and making sure that things like one of the big perennials that has a problem is peonies. So you really want to make sure that you get those peony foliage removed, not composted, discarded, and out of your garden, because it will create peony. There's an anthracnose that peonies get from their own foliage after being left,
and cut them down to the ground.
Yeah, they need cut to the ground.
And everybody says they're so ugly most of the year after they've bloomed. Can I cut those down? The best thing is, like Gwen said, wait until August or September, because then you're sending that energy back down into the ground for next year's flowering to come, the blooms to come. And so, that's true with a lot of things. You jump the gun just because it's prettier to do it that way, but it may not be healthy for the plant.
Right.
Speaking of leaves, something I've seen around, obviously you can mulch them, right? You can rake them up, you can do all that stuff. I've seen some say to just leave the leaves. What's your take on that?
I think that's fine as long as they don't mat. I mean, the biggest problem with leaving the leaves is if you leave them in a 6-inch deep mat, and especially, I hate to bash maple trees, but maple leaves are really bad to mat up. And so it's really a problem on lawn. It can create some real disease problems and disease tendencies. So if
Mhm.
you are going to leave the leaves, make sure that you're not leaving
Thick
foot
piles.
high
Right.
layers of them in places, because it will. And then once it snows on it, and I think it's supposed to do that tomorrow.
We'll say soon.
We'll say soon, right? Anyway, but once that happens, then it's just almost impossible to deal with them. So yeah.
All right.
But I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I think that there's no point in having a lawn that looks like you've run a vacuum cleaner over it. That's sort of silly too. But you know,
Right.
It's also, you just have to moderation in all things.
Of course. Of course. Well, that's Master Gardener Gwen Badesky. She's here with Master Gardener Linda Smith here on the WTIM Morning Show. More from them after this short timeout here on WTIM, your information station.
WTIM.
This is a station editorial. I'm Randall J. Miller, station president. Well, it's the holiday season, the season of thanks for our many blessings and for the birth of Jesus Christ. Despite another year of rancor and division in our country, we still live in the greatest country in the world, where we can do and say just about anything as long as we follow the rule of law. Not many countries have the freedoms we do, and many times we don't stop and think about it. Time marches on for us all. I thank God for my faith, my family, and for the extended family I have in every one of you, our listeners. I'll be celebrating 50 years in the radio business I love in 2023. I've been blessed to have been part of the Taylorville, Shelbyville, Pana communities with our Taylorville cluster of stations for the past 30 years, and 15 years in our Clinton, Monticello, Lincoln markets. Our two legacy stations this year celebrated anniversaries too. WTIM in Taylorville threw a party in May with the Greater Taylorville Chamber of Commerce to honor that station's 70th anniversary, and WHOW in Clinton is celebrating 75 years of service with a fun evening as well. While all of us have challenges every day, it's important to stop, reflect, and be thankful for all that God has given each of us. May you and your family have a most blessed holiday season, and may the love we share this time of year extend into the new year ahead. Quoting Henry Wadsworth Longfellow from the poem The Harvest Moon, it is the harvest moon on gilded vanes and roofs of villages on woodland crests, and their aerial neighborhoods of nests deserted on the curtained window panes of rooms where children sleep, on country lanes and harvest fields, its mystic splendor rests. That's our opinion. We welcome yours. Our email address is editorial@randyradio.com. That's editorial@randyradio.com.
Now's the time to order your new 23 vehicle or choose from over 400 pre-owned vehicles in our family dealerships. General Manager Bill Pinkston here from Landmark in Taylorville, your GM Superstore. You can now order your 23 model car or truck, including the Refresh, Chevy Silverado, and GMC Sierra. Let us help you choose what 23 will work for you, or let us find your next pre-owned vehicle from our family of dealerships. And yes, we will still buy your vehicle, even if you don't buy from us. Your GM Superstore is Landmark in Taylorville, online at landmarkintaylorville.com. And remember,
You always do better at Landmark.
At People's Bank and Trust, they say you can bank on us to put your business first. Finally, you have a real banking partner to make sense of business lending. Find out how People's Bank and Trust's business bankers can serve you by clicking their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com. Member FDIC.
Hi, this is Jeff Robinson from Advanced Title. Whether selling your home on your own or through your local realtor, please give us a call at 824-8007 for all your title work needs.
WTIM.
Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark, and People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first. I have the Master Gardeners of University of Illinois Extension, Gwen Badesky and Linda Smith in studio right now. It's great to have you both here to talk about all the things going on with the Master Gardeners, including some of your November programming. I understand you have one coming up this week.
Yeah, this week, Thursday at 1:00 at the extension office, or I think you can do it on
Online.
Zoom. And it's called Choosing Native Trees and Shrubs. And this is a great topic, very timely topic, because this is the good time to plant trees and shrubs. So
You're right. I did want to ask you that question exactly. when is the best time to plant? And you just said it.
Trees
now.
and shrubs are right
Trees
now.
and shrubs are
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
Um,
I would put a caveat on that. I don't think boxwoods and hollies are really good because I think they're young and tender. That
Might hurt
winter wind
them.
is going to
Mhm.
hurt their really scald, dry out their foliage. But for the most part, deciduous trees and shrubs, this is it.
We've talked a lot about native plants before, and so I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but I did want to ask you what your favorite weeds pun. Sorry. Anyway, I did want to ask you what your favorite tree or shrub to plant around this time is.
I mean, around this
I would
area.
love to if
Around this area. Yeah, that's what I was looking
If,
for.
if I
Yes,
could
thank you,
find
Linda.
one more spot in my yard for a tree, I want a Kentucky coffee
Kentucky
tree
coffee
in the
tree.
worst way.
Is it actually give you coffee beans or
No, well, they're
Why is it
beans that the Native Americans sort of worked with for some kind of
Beverage.
coffee-like
okay,
drink.
but it's not the coffee we know of.
No.
Okay.
No.
And truly, they are a tree that is recommended because they are native and they do extremely well in this environment, and there aren't any around.
Mhm.
Right.
You
They
can-
have a great canopy,
right,
and yet they don't have. I mean, they don't
take up a lot of
take up a lot of space, so they're
Yeah.
a really good.
Mhm.
And Linda's right. There just are not that many in the area. It's one of those trees that was never brought into the trade and kind of has suffered
Yes.
with the environment going.
When we've done tree inventories before in Taylorville and surrounding areas, it's maples, and a few oaks here and there. And the diversity of being able to get a couple of other varieties is very cool.
Mm.
And knowing that they're going to survive is also, they're
Right.
knowing that you're not going to have to baby them
right.
and work on lots of disease prevention.
Mhm.
That's the big one. I mean, as long as they don't come up with a Kentucky coffee tree beetle that's whatever. But
And there is a right way and a wrong way to plant trees too. And a lot of the master gardeners have been through the tree workshop.
Mastering urban tree care, I think is the name.
Right. And the group that Barb Kearns belonged to, Trees Forever, they have a really good website with directions on how to plant trees because you can do it wrong and your tree will suffer for a long, long time, forever, if it's not done right.
And then it will die.
And then it will
Right.
die.
I mean, there are you have
Right.
to have it the right depth. You don't want it too deep. You don't want it, you want to make sure those roots are broken up and laid out so that you don't get girdling roots and it doesn't choke itself to death as it grows. So there are all kinds of things, but yes.
I would think Andrew would cover this when he's talking about choosing those native trees because planting them is the other half of the battle.
Again, when is that program?
November 17th from 1 to 2 in the afternoon, which is Thursday.
At the Christian County Extension Office, or
Mhm.
you can participate via Zoom.
Mhm.
All right. One of the other things that the Master Gardeners do all the time, you guys like to assist with other kind of gardening type projects in the community. And I understand that there's one that you've been paying special attention to, Gwen.
Right. We've got a couple of master gardeners from the Pana area who have been helping with kind of coaching along the part of the garden around the railroad depot. And part of that garden is set up for the AAMP group, which is they are clients on the autism spectrum, and this garden is going to be a sensory garden. And these are very popular with people. So you'll get plants that you can touch, like lamb's ear, something that you can feel like, this is a interesting plant. Fragrance is a big one. So they will really try to find fragrant roses or fragrant plants. Vision, of course, the flowers. They are trying to find a few fruiting plants like strawberries and thornless raspberries so that you've got taste. And so it's really a five senses garden. And kind of also they're in thoughts of helping these people. Gardening helps your soul, no matter who you are,
Right.
but it also gives you some purpose in life and something to do and some sense of accomplishment being outside. I just think it's a win-win. And so we're applying through the Illinois State Master Gardener Committee issues no more grow more grants once a year for projects like this that are assisting parts of the communities, different groups. So we can only do one from this county for
Right.
this year. So this is it. But we've got a couple of other projects that we're looking at too, that we've had asked for advice
Right.
with, that we're going to kind of see how this one goes and
That's excellent.
encourage.
Well, that's
Some more.
Master Gardeners Gwen Podesky and Linda Smith. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Volodymyr Zelensky has paid a triumphant visit to the newly liberated town of Kherson in southern Ukraine. He says that the